Hello everyone, Jamie here. I'm going to be presenting my top 5 favorite projects that I created this semester. The first one is the digital Photoshop project number 3. I used the techniques that we learned from the digital Photoshop project number 2, and I learned how to blend and mask. This composite is my favorite. I got inspired by this female in red, in the red veil. It just reminded me of Lady Jessica from Dune. And so I played on that image and added other elements onto this composite to create this Dune, Mad Max, Fury Road, Star Wars, and a touch of like Salvador Dali-esque vibe kind of world. And this is what I came up with. So I added the girl in red with the red veil. I added vultures. I added stilt walkers. I added a planet and some clouds to give it a little depth. I applied the shadows to each individual one, and it was something I did not know, so I had to go to Adobe tutorials and kind of figure out how to do that. I like the contradiction of minimalism and maximalism, and I wanted my composite to be simple. However, I wanted to include elements that would make my project look dramatic and intense. So the next project that I loved was the digital project Photoshop 1. Last year, I went to an EDM festival at the Great Saltaire in Salt Lake City, and I remember taking this photo on the balcony of the venue overlooking the festival that stretched out to the sunset. And I remember this photo because there were parachuters in the background, and I was overwhelmed by the sunset, the energy of the festival. The electronic music was loud and playing beautifully, and it set the tone of this magical, surreal moment. So I took the photo, the original photo. Let me show you the original photo. I fixed the slanted horizon and made it straight. And I removed the third guy right here because I just wanted to demonstrate that I knew how to Photoshop him out. I enhanced the color a tiny bit, and I lowered the opacity and brushed out some of the strong colors like the yellow around the sun. I also added a tilt shift blur filter, and it gave the photo depth. The next project was recreating logos. I chose Instagram and Adidas. So Instagram was very difficult for me, and it was trying to figure out how to use the gradient in the shape. And I had to do several attempts because I did not know how to use the gradient, but eventually I figured out how to get it to look like Instagram. The next one was recreating Adidas logo, and this was very difficult as well. It took me forever. I'm glad that I chose this because it forced me to get familiar with getting to know how to build shapes and create the shapes that I needed to do this. But I enjoyed doing it. And of course, I love this technique, the image tracing. I plan to experiment a little bit more with this and see what I can create with this technique. So for my InDesign magazine project, I wanted to create a magazine with topics that I'm interested in. And I enjoy films, music, art, anything pop culture. So for the cover of my magazine, I chose to feature my favorite artist of the moment, and that is the international Spanish superstar Rosalía. I had a lot of fun creating this. So I had this as the original, and then I added an X. But I wanted the X to be behind her, so I did the technique that I learned, and I took the background around her, and that's how I created. So this was the magazine, and I included the table of contents, some Hollywood scoop in the drama that was going on at the moment when I created this. My layout that I created for Rosalía and reviewing her album, and I included movies that have been held hostage because of whatever reason, and I go into those details And I also included streaming shows that are currently out and the ones that I recommend. And then I included my favorite artist at the moment, Ricardo Cavolo. And I really enjoyed creating this layout, and I learned new techniques from the skill building and design projects, and I just kind of gathered a few techniques and put them all together, and I created this wonderful magazine. So one thing that you guys might find interesting was that I took multimedia with Johnny Rowing, and I took advantage of this class and having the Adobe programs, and I created projects in that class, and I kind of wanted to share. We were learning about inverted pyramids, and I created this in InDesign. I did this cover on Photoshop. And for one of our multimedia projects was creating a story using our voice and music. And I wrote an original story, and it's a cautionary tale about being wise with your time and your money and holding yourself accountable. And I created the cover art using Photoshop, and the story is called Jimmy and Freya. If you guys are interested, it's on YouTube. And the last project that I wanted to share was from my sociology class. The assignment was to choose 20 images that I felt like represented American society. And I used the techniques that I learned from getting started and getting to know Photoshop. And I included images like this guy holding shopping bags representing consumerism, and rich Uncle Pennybags representing capitalism, and then the Kardashians representing our society's obsession with celebrities, and then so on and so forth. But I really enjoyed this class, and it really helped me not only get comfortable with learning how to use Photoshop and Design and Illustrator, but it also allowed me to explore the other Adobe programs. And I can't wait to see your guys' videos. Thank you for watching.